You are looking live on this Wednesday, February the 19th, 2025, at the town of Duck, where the snow is coming down. We've got ice and snow happening across the Carolinas on this live special edition of the podcast. And what a beautiful sight it is there on the Outer Banks of North Carolina. And hello to everyone who is, in some form or fashion, getting in on this storm system that has been moving through North Carolina and South Carolina today. A live look at radar here, just past the 9 o'clock hour on this Wednesday night. And it will show you we've got a mix of rain, we've got a mix of snow, and some sleet and freezing rain in there too. Snow falling earlier and portions of North Carolina from the mountains through the Piedmont, the Triad, and the Triangle. And we'll check in with Scotty Powell in a minute to find out exactly how much of winter weather made it into Myrtle Beach in South Carolina. But Sam Walker's with us tonight. And Sam, I think as forecast, you guys have been getting a good chunk of that snow. Here's Kill Devil Hills, and you can see the parking lot. Looks like a nice winter wonderland there. How are things been going?
Yeah, it has been for much of the day. We've seen the snow started right around 10 o'clock, right? Everything has really lined up as we expected with the forecast, the timing of it, and with where the rain snow line is set up now over the last couple hours. I think we've got a lot more snow than was people here were expecting. The forecast kind of evolved over the last 24 hours. But for the most part, the folks on the beach, and I say on the beach, meaning the North Beaches, which is Duck, Southern Shores, Kitty Hawk, Kettlebell Hills, Nags Head, those areas there, even Manio, saw a lot more snow than they expected. And then we've seen a lot more rain really since about 4 o'clock. Manio's pretty much been on all rain event, but as you can see there with that time lapse in Duck, they've really gotten the best of it in Dare County. But if you just go a couple of miles north up into Corolla, I mean, it's total snow up there. There's probably got to be at least 5 inches now, maybe even 6, and they're due east of me by 5 miles. My latest measurement before about an hour ago was at 4.5 inches.
Wow.
So yeah, so we've gotten exactly what we were expecting. And as you go farther north, you head on up into northern Currituck, you head over to Elizabeth City, even over to Edenton, 3, 4, 5, 6 inches. I've already seen some reports right across the state line in Chesapeake of 7 inches as of an hour ago. And the snow's still coming down. It's going to keep coming down into the overnight hours. So this forecast is verified for sure, especially for us here in Northeast North Carolina and up in Southeastern Virginia.
You can see some of the numbers that Sam was just mentioning on your screen right now. These are not the final numbers by any stretch of the imagination, as we can see with the snow still coming down. We'll expect this to increase as we continue through the overnight hours and into portions of Thursday morning. And you know what, Sam? I think I only put North Carolina and South Carolina on this map, but live on the fly, let's add Virginia to it because I think you're right. I think our neighbors just up there to your north really are getting quite the licking of snow here.
Yeah.
As you can see, just up here in Virginia Beach and the like. Wow, those are some impressive snow numbers for our podcast listeners, as Sam was mentioning. Oh, I see 6, 7, 8 inches in some place. So let's call out a couple more numbers. The greater amounts are to the east. They're not in the mountains. In the Raleigh area, maybe 2 inches of snow. I see a 2-inch snowfall amount in Greensboro, but just over in Winston-Salem, about 0.5. Those numbers start to drop off here in Charlotte. We got upwards of 0.4, 0.5 by Lake Norman, and a couple inches, a healthy 3 inches of snow in portions of the western North Carolina mountains. The ice, though, we can see there's an ice threat here over portions of, say, the Goldsboro area, over towards Jacksonville in North Carolina, and that could be dangerous because, as we, of course, been telling you time and time again, it is that icing on power lines that can cause power outages and also bring down trees. You can see in New Bern, Duke Energy was staging their crews out there ready to respond, as I'm sure they are out there in those brutally cold temperatures to tackle any of the power outages that might come through the overnight hours. Scotty Powell is on our panel tonight from Myrtle Beach. Scotty, just across the state line into Myrtle Beach. I'm not seeing much in terms of storm reports, but what did you guys experience there?
Yeah, we've had some ice out there. Conway, I'm not sure why the storm reports are because the Weather Service has them, but Conway has some ice up in Horry County, and you go into Dillon County, also some ice there. Lumberton right now about a tenth to 15 hundredths of an inch of ice up in Robeson County. I'll get it out here in a second. And up there is like where we're really concerned about, at least for our viewing area here in the Grand Strand and the Border Belt and the PD, really that Laurinburg to Lumberton to Pembroke area, seeing the brunt of the ice. And so everything is kind of played out the way it was forecasted here. We did get a little bit colder than we expected earlier.
Interesting.
Our temperatures, I guess, got right around freezing around 2-3 o'clock this afternoon. And we were kind of thinking more like 5-6 o'clock as the sun was setting. So that allowed for that ice to kind of move in a little bit earlier. But with the temperatures right around 31, 32, we didn't really see a lot of major icing issues. You know, you really kind of need that temperature like around 30 and below to see that ice really start to accumulate. So, but there are some slick spots out there. And I don't know about you. Maybe we'll bring Frank in here for a second. But the bigger story for South Carolina may be tomorrow with that little band of snow trying to move through, and it could give us some snow showers and snow flurries across the state.
Yep. We are watching another weather system that's currently over the Midwestern states, moving into the Ohio Valley right now. And that is going to bring us parts of South Carolina, a little bit of snow tomorrow. Let me get my screen shared so I can show you some satellite and radar of what's going on right now. You can see our storm on this radar composite moving out of South Carolina. There's still some lingering rain over the coastal plain right now. And as Scotty mentioned, areas toward the North Carolina line, potentially still seeing some freezing rain. But for the most part, the storm has ended across most of South Carolina now. Looking farther to the northwest, you can see some light returns over Indiana, western Kentucky, the boot heel of Missouri, and down into Arkansas. That is with another weak and mostly moisture-starved cold front, but it looks as though it's going to be heading across the western Carolinas tomorrow morning, and then going toward the east as the day wears on. And has the potential to cause a little bit of snow across western North Carolina, over to the I-77 corridor as well, and across upstate South Carolina, the Catawba River region, maybe into the upper PD as well. Now, there's not going to be a lot of snow with this, but unlike what happened with the areas that saw snow today, there was some snow in the upstate, there's some snow around Rock Hill, there was some little bit of snow along the North Carolina line over toward Chesterfield County, but it was warm. Temperatures were above freezing, and so didn't really stick. Things could be a little different tomorrow morning because, well, it's going to start during the very early part of the day when the sun's just coming up. So daylight's not going to have as much of an impact. It should be colder. The ground should be colder. Temperature is probably right at freezing. So there's a better chance for what little bit of snow falls tomorrow morning to stick. And some of the computer models are hinting at, like a half inch of snow accumulating in parts of the upstate, maybe over toward Rock Hill, maybe even sneaking into the North Midlands. So that's what we'll be watching out for tomorrow morning. And one or two computer models are even showing the snow showers surviving farther east and into the PD region, and maybe even the low country, although it may end up being too warm down there. It may end up being a rain shower instead when it gets down that far south. But it's something interesting to watch for tomorrow. And again, it shows up pretty good on radar, and looks like that's a computer model forecast there. I'm not sure which one, James, you have there, but
that's the HRR.
Potential evolution.
Yeah,
it's the HRR model.
It's the HRR, and I know we could ask 20 models and get 20 different opinions, but I thought that might help speak a little bit too. And again, that was kind of showing what you were talking about, kind of that second wave coming on through. Scotty, how did the warm nose perform today? That was kind of the $1 million question with all these forecasts.
Yeah, I mean, for the coastal areas, we were really expecting to see mostly rain and just kind of that light glaze of ice. And I pulled up the SQT last night on TV and got a little sciencey out there and showed that our surface temperatures were going to be right around freezing, but a couple thousand feet above, with the warm air coming in off the ocean, temperatures were in the upper 30s, low 40s. So that created that warm nose. But all in all, I think down here across the Grand Strand and most of the PD, we were just kind of looking at that light ice accumulation. The real concern was really up towards Scotland and Robeson County and then into eastern North Carolina. And that's kind of really played out as well. The one interesting thing is, I feel so sorry for you, James and Charlotte, because it seems like you guys just keep getting robbed of snow. And yes,
I live
today's
south of
event
85.
was
Of course, I get robbed of snow.
yeah. Today's event, we had that low pressure across the Gulf Coast and we had those thunderstorms that kind of robbed that moisture being transported up into the western Piedmont. And then once that low pressure kind of developed off of the Carolina coastline, that's where the moisture really filled in from, the PD Grand Strand all the way up to where Sam's at now with the snow up there. So the good old dry slide visited the Charlotte area back towards Asheville and Hickory and places like that. They saw a little snow, but nothing like what our friends from about, I would say, Chapel Hill on to the east is experiencing tonight.
I will say this morning I was looking at the model runs about 9 o'clock, and you could see a lot of the computer models. A lot of them, not just one. Even at 9 o'clock, we're trying to put that dry slot right over Charlotte, Union County, where the city of Monroe is. And I was like, are we going to get any moisture here this afternoon? And it held out until about 1 o'clock. And we did. We got a coating here where I am towards Matthews. We did get snow falling in Monroe. So like it did eventually fill on in. But yeah, it definitely hurt our snow totals. And I saw Raleigh, a lot of M-pings coming in from Raleigh pretty early on in the morning, even before we got any here in Charlotte. And you can see right now some of the M-pings on the map. So if you're a nerd out there, you've got the M-ping app, you got the Radar Scope app. We love these things. Go ahead, send a report in. It's really helping us understand where it's snowing, where it's raining, and where we're getting that ice in between. Because yes, we have these beautiful colors on radar, and the blue is snow and the green is rain, and then we've got that ice mixed in between. But as we tell you time and time again, that radar is only telling us what's happening above your house, and it's you on the ground in those circles on the screen right now that are telling us what's happening on the ground. Of course, you can also just send us a comment right here on our live stream tonight. We'd love to hear from you and understand exactly what is happening. But all in all, I think we're seeing it pretty good right now. Although here's a pretty good example, right? We got a lot of blue mixed in here, but these actually look more like mixed precipitation reports that the human beings on the ground are telling us. So that is a really good delineator between whether or not the radar is accurately picking it up. And maybe it'd be a different story if I change radars. But go ahead, Scotty.
I was going to jump in here, and Sam can probably verify this. I had a friend text me. He was in Windsor, North Carolina today, and it was around lunchtime. He sent me a text. He's just like, on a 5-mile stretch of road, there was like 13 accidents just because of the snow came down so fast and so hard, and it just accumulated so quickly. And then there was a post that I posted on X of the 8540 interchange right there as you're moving to Chapel Hill, Durham, where we saw some accidents there. So once the snow started, it was very slick. It goes to show you ground temperatures are very important in snowfall, but if you get heavy enough snowfall rates to occur, that snow can definitely overcome those warmer ground conditions and create those pretty big snow patches on the roadways pretty quickly. And unfortunately, that's what we saw there. So I know a lot of travel issues, especially for central and eastern North Carolina.
Well, Sam, I know you're looking at the power outage numbers, helping us understand where some of those impacts are.
Yeah, if you look right there, Craven County, which is New Bern, on down to Carteret, which is where, and I believe that might be why I've not gotten much response on the weather chat from Newport recently. I would think they'd be on generator, but no, it's not Carteret County. So, but it's right there in that border where they're at Newport. That's where the ice is really set up. And you can see that with the radar, the last radar image you showed. But with the ice reports there, but you can see that's where the most power outages are right now in Craven County, around New Bern and Havelock, those areas. and then even surrounding it. We saw earlier with down in Jacksonville, Onslow County was seeing quite a bit of power outages. So yeah, that right there shows where that ice is setting up. Scotty, we're talking about the traffic issues up here, and yeah, we had that. Not only we said Windsor out on 17 and 13, where things got stacked up really badly as that snow really came in. We had the same situation over here in Currituck, where I've got one report. We had a photo come in from a crash where somebody ran into the back of a DOT truck and damaged.
I saw that. Yeah,
damaged the brine spreader. There were at least, I believe, in about the span of about 30 minutes, about 10 crashes reported in Currituck alone. It just happened so fast, and it was, again, big amount of snow came in a short amount of time. We're getting that 1 inch rate per hour, and it overcame what warmth was in the pavement, what warmth was in the ground, and folks got surprised by it. There it is right there. Yeah, that was up in Currituck, right by the courthouse there in Currituck, where somebody just ran right in the back of a DOT truck, unfortunately, and that's not good because we only have so many of those things out here.
You can see some of the video that the NCDOT put out, all the brine they were getting out on the roads, all the plows that they got out today. This is video from...
Oh, James, we lost your audio.
Yeah, we lost you, James. But that's the DOT Division 1 main offices there in Elizabeth City, and all the counties, they were out spreading brine on Monday morning. I mean, 8 o'clock Monday morning, they were out here in Currituck spreading that brine and getting it down. And for the most part, I went out there I drove out about 1 o'clock. It was doing the job. And even my little 2-lane road that goes out off a causeway out here onto the island right in the middle of the sound, that it was doing its job. So I will say that they got the brine down. Somehow they got it down in a good way, and it really has helped, at least in the early part of the day. But then, like you said, it just more snow than it could overcome. And, the freezing point at brine is at 18 degrees. But it didn't matter. We were actually in the upper 20s when things started out here. So yeah, it was been kind of rough. I believe I saw a post, so it's over 1,000 crashes reported in North Carolina today alone. So Highway Patrol and the locals have all been kind of busy out there today.
Yeah, if you got my sound back, we know the head of the North Carolina Department of Transportation was in Raleigh today for the big state briefing on the storm, and they talked a little bit about the number of crews they've got out there.
The winter storm has arrived in parts of our state, and we expect it will make travel treacherous across much of North Carolina throughout today, tomorrow, and even into Friday. By the end of today, we expect many routes to be covered with snow and ice in western, central, and parts of northeastern North Carolina. So please limit unnecessary travel. This will allow our crews, law enforcement, utility workers, and other public safety officials to do their work. After pre-treating hundreds of miles of highways with more than 3.1 million gallons of brine through the end of last night, our crews are now transitioning their focus and their equipment to clear roads as the storm moves across the state today. Again, as Governor Stein mentioned, we have more than 1,200 crew members already clearing roads or standing by ready to do so when the storm hits their area. And there are more than 1,400 DOT and contractor trucks available for this storm. We have more than 133,000 tons of salt on hand ready to treat ice-covered roads. Our crews will be working around the clock over the coming days and will not stop until roads are clear. It does include crews who are or will be out cutting and removing fallen trees and debris as necessary from roads, and also working with our utility partners in spots that involve down power lines.
And here now tonight, a live look back out at Duck, and you can see the status of those roads. No amount of brine or salt or plows will ever beat just staying home inside where it's warm on a night like tonight. Sam, did you get a chance to go out on the roads earlier today? How were they?
Yeah, I did. I did briefly. Today was not going to be a road trip day. My truck is in the shop, so I went to go check on it. I was getting some work done. So I'm driving my wife's Volvo, and I'm like, I'm not tearing that thing up riding up and down the roads today shooting video. I will stick to the DOT cameras and all our other sources. So no, I did get out about midday, but I've been monitoring things. Got a page set up now that I can just scroll right through and see all of our web NCDOT cameras out here, the duck cameras as well. Downtown Mania, we've got cameras there that we're able to monitor. For the most part, it's about exactly what I expected. It really matches what we got last month as you go north. Now, that's one thing that's different about this event. This is more the classic nor'easter style event for us, where we have an established rain snow line that, the beaches don't get snow. They did get, like I said earlier, they did get snow, but we've seen that rain snow line. This is more the classic setup. Our last storm, we had all that cold air the days leading up to it. It took a more southern track. I've always said that if it snows in Atlanta, that's our best chance of getting snow here. And that's what happened last time. This one, a little different. But at the same time, the beaches didn't get the snow. It's been more the inland areas that got those significant snow. But roads are pretty much as we expected. They were just like they were a month ago as you get up towards Virginia. And, it's going to be a couple of days, especially up there, because we're looking at temperatures not getting above freezing possibly until Saturday. So that's going to, really cause some travel headaches right on into the weekend out here.
Yeah, especially if we get a little bit more snow tomorrow morning. Looking live right now at East Carolina University from WeatherStem. It's a little hard to tell from this shot, but that building right there down at the bottom certainly has a coating of snow on it. This is one of the many cameras we were streaming for you today on our Carolina Weather Group YouTube channel. Thanks to WeatherStem and our network of cameras that allowing us to see exactly what has been going on out there. And I did check. We've got a New Bern camera from a different camera feed that's not WeatherStem, and it's naturally offline right now as they're dealing with those power outages out there.
Right. One thing I wanted to, and we weren't able to get questions into that press conference today. Something that came up last storm was one of the first times I'd seen it here. When you go into northern cities, you'll see those snow emergency routes where they don't allow on-street parking. Or in the case of, even highways, they'll have those marked. But seeing those on the variable message signs out here where it says mandatory towing, after 8 a.m. on Wednesday, where they're going to pull the vehicles off, I was curious to find out where exactly do people need to go if they get their vehicle towed. Who do they call? Do they call a highway? So it's kind of interesting. They put that out. I have not seen anything mentioning that in any of the press releases. So something that probably needs to come up in the next time we deal with this here in North Carolina is, hey, if you're going to put that out there, you might want to let folks know where their car went.
Yes. Yeah. Growing up in New York, we certainly had those. And you're right. I guess there's generally almost not a need for them, but we see a lot more hurricane routes than I suppose.
Exactly.
Yeah. Do you know offhand, Sam, how the ferries are doing?
Ocracoke mainland ferries were suspended midday. They did not run the afternoon routes. A lot of that had to do with the wind. I mean, we were getting winds. That was one thing we haven't even talked about. I mean, we were looking at winds 25 to 30. We were under a wind advisory for Hatteras and Ocracoke today with wind gusts topping 40. I haven't seen any wind reports, but two things are going on down there with the Ocracoke mainland ferries is one, there's 15 to 25 knot winds. That's kind of normal. When you get above 25 up to 30, 35, there's enough chop out there on the Pamlico Sound. It's not a fun ride, but we still have problems with one of the channels, it's called Bigfoot Slough. Basically, it's a channel right outside of Ocracoke. It's very narrow. They're constantly having to dredge it. So those ferries, when you get a crosswind, like a northeast wind, they can be difficult to navigate. And rather than risk tearing a ferry up and causing all problems with the passengers and vehicles that are on there, they're more have a tendency not to run them. The Hatteras Ocracoke ferry ran all day. Currituck Knott's Island, which is right up the road from me here, they didn't run the afternoon runs. That's not unusual. Again, same kind of situation. Narrow channel. Schools weren't in today, and that's the main route for the kids that live in Knott's Island. They take the ferry every day. Otherwise, they have to drive through Virginia to get to the middle school and high school. It's one of those rarities. That's one of the things about part of the world. But yeah, the ferries. Ocracoke mainland weren't able to run. This time of year, it's not a huge impact. I mean, you don't have a lot of people taking those routes. It's more the Hatteras Ocracoke ferry. When it shuts down, that's when it kind of causes issues for the folks on the island.
Here are some NCDOT cameras, just still pictures. Most of these, at least the top two, NC12. We've got US 158 in the bottom left. You can see various degrees of where the plows have been recently. But take a look at this still picture near Carteret County. And I can't tell if that's ice or rainwater on the roadway, but one way or the other, I think it speaks to the threat of ice on the roadways overnight with those cold temperatures out there. Because even if that's liquid right now, that's going to turn to ice.
Yeah, definitely. I believe that top right one, that should be Corolla, isn't it? If I'm not mistaken.
I think I was pretty close as I was clicking through there.
Yeah, that's Corolla. So yeah, that's Currituck Club, which is just I literally can see the Currituck Club from my house across the sound. They, like I said, they got walloped up there. We got some great photos that came from the Currituck Beach Lighthouse this afternoon and evening. But you can see the difference between there and you go just a little bit south down into that should be, is that Helga, I believe? What's that bottom left one you got there? I'm having a little hard time seeing that.
US 158 at Neptune Drive.
That's French Fry, well, also known as French Fry Alley in Kill Devil Hills. Yes. Oh, it's an old school back in the day when all the fast food restaurants were all first built. Everybody called it French Fry Alley. You can see where a lot of that rain, and that rain really started probably around 5 o'clock. In Kill Devil Hills and down into Nag's Head, and really took care of it. Those roads were covered at 4 o'clock, and then we got that dousing of rain, and it's continued throughout the evening down there. So that rain line, snow line, as I said, we always talk about how 25 to 50 miles can make a difference. Here, it's 10 miles, it's 5 miles, it's a 1 mile difference between what you saw in Duck earlier. You see, that's what things look like in Kill Devil Hills. 4 o'clock this afternoon, 5 o'clock this afternoon, everything was covered out there. And then boom, we got the rain, washed it all away. Yeah. The temperatures should stay above, right around freezing, above freezing down there. So we may not get the refreezing, in Dare County, but we're going to definitely see it the farther north you go.
Sam, you talked about how that snow kind of melted away. This is Evan Fisher's video in Asheville, North Carolina, to talk about the mountains for a moment. Some sort of creatures there. Are those turkeys, guys?
Those are turkeys. Yep, right? Those are turkeys.
And he was like, "Oh, this is great. What a winter wonderland. Got about half an inch of snow." And then he tweeted about an hour later, and it's all gone.
All right. Yep. I had a conversation with Kenneth Reese, who runs with Talking Roads out in Boone earlier, and he's like, "You guys are going to get it twice in 1 year. When's the last time that happened? 2018." I had another conversation with a friend of mine out here. He said, "Don't we, every time we get multiple snow events, end up dealing with a hurricane?" And I was like, "Yeah, 2018, Florence. Don't know if that's a precursor, but
is that the whole? Is that like the whole? If we get thunder, then it snows 10 days later.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Hotel.
It's the same thing, right?"
Yep. Some of the higher elevations in western North Carolina did fairly well. There was a report of 3.5 inches in Jackson County near Maggie Valley. Soco Gap, about 4,300 feet.
Yeah. Frank, I want to go back to what you were talking about earlier. Is this upper level low that I've seen up here talk about that really just being some snow showers might give us about a half inch? Is this the same system, or is this another system that we were talking about this earlier? Is that same upper level low?
Yeah, it's a separate system here. Looking at the satellite imagery here, and unfortunately, our pictures are kind of covering up the
I can
the
fix
storm
that.
over the Carolinas. There we go. James,
As
fixed
can you
it
shall
because-
receive.
Yes, producer extraordinaire. Anyway, looking at infrared satellite pictures imagery here, and so the satellite sensing temperatures, we have to use this at night because there's no light at night, so you can't use visible light for that at night. So we use infrared satellite that senses temperatures. Clouds that are higher up in the atmosphere will be colder, and this enhancement colors those in the bright colors. So you can see our storm that's starting to move offshore now, off the Carolinas, Virginia, and Delmarva, and that's where those brighter clouds are, the higher clouds. You can see the shades of gray there, indicating some lower clouds that are still present, warmer clouds because they're lower in the atmosphere. That say warmer, still temperatures are like 30 to 35 degrees is what the satellite's sensing here. But as you go to the northwest, this is the next storm system. It's a relatively weak one. It's centered roughly over Lake Michigan right now, and there's a little weak cold front trailing into Arkansas. And so these colder temperatures it's sensing here are clouds that are moving across this area, and that's the culprit for our little snow event that looks like it'll be coming our way tomorrow. Glad we brought this up because once we get this front out of the way, Sam mentioned a minute ago, it's going to be cold for a while behind this cold front. Look off to the further to the north and west behind this system. You see the brighter colors back here, but these aren't clouds. You can see nothing's moving back here. All these brighter colors are sitting still.
Oh, yeah.
That's because we have a clear sky, but the ground is just that cold. It has the same temperatures as the higher clouds. Look at the scale down here. It's hard to see, but the blues start at minus 20 Celsius. That's 4 degrees below zero Fahrenheit. The greens start at minus 40 Celsius, which that's where the scales cross. That's 40 below zero Fahrenheit too. So you look all this area out in here. These blues, they're below zero surface temperature, not the 2 meter air temperature where we the 4 to 7 feet roughly where we take air temperatures. So this is the temperature of the actual ground the satellite's sensing here, and then up here in the greens like 40 below the actual surface temperature here. And the interesting thing about this, if you look closely here, you can see the urban heat islands showing up on this. Like there's Des Moines right there. This is Kansas City. It's an island of gray there in the middle of these blues. There's Omaha right there. It's not as cold as its surroundings. I guess that's Pierce, South Dakota right there. There's the Black Hills. Why are the hills warmer than their surroundings, but they're higher up? Well, this very cold air, it sinks, so it goes to the lower elevations. The higher elevations aren't as cold as the low elevations in an Arctic air mass like this. And then you go further west still, there's more clouds that are even colder because they're way up high in the atmosphere over Colorado and Wyoming. Infrared satellite is a lot of fun if you know how to interpret it.
That is pretty cool. It's amazing to see those islands, the heat islands you talk about popping up, to be able to see that, to be able to see Kansas City just right there. That is really amazing. So that what we're seeing over Lake Michigan, that's what we're talking about for tomorrow.
That's right, for tomorrow morning, and then that really cold air mass. It's aimed more down the plains into Texas. It's real cold over in Texas right now, like 10 degrees in Dallas, I think. I haven't checked lately, but it's real cold there. But that air mass, is going more south than east, but it is coming east, and that's what it gets us this weekend. And where you have a lot of snow in North Carolina or in the east and down the Tidewater area of Virginia, it's not going away very quickly, and you're going to have daily melt and nighttime refreeze cycles that result in continued treacherous travel as we go through the rest of the week and into the weekend.
Here are the temperatures right now across the U.S. That looks like a whopping 9 degrees out there. That's balmy.
Yeah, and you'll notice the actual air temperature measurements. That's actually the high temperatures.
You are correct. Yeah, so they're colder than that now.
Right. Yeah, it should be colder than that now. Most of that area, the air temperature is below zero. The infrared satellite picture I was showing you, that's sensing the temperature of the ground, which will be colder than the air right above it because the ground is radiating the heat out into the atmosphere and out into space. So it'll be colder than what the thermometer reads. This, by the way, is why you see frost when you hear the low is 38, but you see frost on the grass. Sometimes it's because the ground itself is colder because it's radiating heat out into space. So you get frost, but the actual air temperature measurement doesn't get down to freezing.
With the little amounts of snow we got here in Charlotte, you could really tell where some of those colder versus warmer pockets were, because it's where the snow is still holding on slightly. Thank you for that explanation. And yes, Sam's saving me. He's found a much better map of currents. I don't know
while you pull that, something I wanted to bring up was, these last couple of systems, the one thing that we haven't had to deal with has been coastal problems. And I don't know, maybe Frank, maybe Scotty, you guys can weigh in on this. We haven't really had to deal with a true nor'easter in quite a while. I don't know are we seeing something? Is this partially because we're seeing a little bit cooler Gulf waters, colder Atlantic waters than we've had the last couple of winters, where we really got beat up out here. And, whenever we say nor'easter, whenever we think of these coastal storms like this that bring a high snowfall total to Norfolk, to Virginia Beach, and then it's just all rain and it blows 40 and 50 and 60. Anything trend-wise that we're seeing of these last couple of systems that are protecting us from getting that extended blow and those slow movers that offshore that can really cause hazards out here, especially with the high waves and even the winds?
Yeah, it's been a long time since we've had a really good East Coast storm, I guess. At least one that's ridden all the way up the coast, coming out of the Gulf of Mexico and going from there to Hatteras, and from there up the coast toward New York and southern New England, and then Atlantic Canada. They haven't really had one of those in a while. I remember we had one, I guess, about 10 years ago, but we haven't really had a good one in a long time. And really, we just haven't had a really good weather pattern for that, especially in recent years. We've had La Nina winters. When you have a La Nina going on in the East Pacific, the wintertime tends to feature an upper ridge over the southeastern part of the country, and you're not going to get a big East Coast storm, at least not starting in the Gulf of Mexico in that kind of weather pattern. The storms that we have had have tended to go more out to sea, I guess. So they don't really come up the coast and wind up and there right off the East Coast. Just we're kind of in a nor'easter drought, I guess.
We'll take it. We'll take
keep
it.
in mind.
Sure.
Yeah, keep in mind the weather business is one of karma. I think what goes around typically comes around. So we haven't had one in a while. Watch us over the next few years get 4 or 5 of them.
I think it's interesting that the last big one that dumped all the snow on us in January, what it ended up doing once it got out over the open Atlantic, and what it did to Ireland. Was that energy continued on and turned into a rather powerful storm for the British Isles. Sometimes we see that with tropical systems, and we do see it with the nor'easters. But it's interesting. In the question I've got, and we might be getting a little really deep into the science here. The one thing that happened with this system was the energy that came off the low that was in the Gulf. This low that is bringing us the snow today didn't form until 12 hours ago, 24 hours ago, and it formed off Florida as kind of a piece of the low that was in the Gulf. Am I correct on that? Because the way I've looked at the maps and looking at the discussions, it didn't have that chance, like you said, to wind itself up, sprint across Florida, and get out over the Gulf Stream and go into maybe a bomb cyclone situation.
Right, and I think it's because we don't have a lot of blocking upstream in the upper air pattern over the Atlantic right now. To get geeky and to talk in weatherman terms, the North Atlantic Oscillation, the NAO that you hear us weather geeks talk about sometimes, that has been negative, which is favorable for nor'easter type storms, but it's quickly trending in the other direction. The blocking that comes from that negative phase of the NAO, which tends to result in an upper ridge over the North Atlantic and over to Greenland or Iceland. When you have that happening, it forces storms to come up the East Coast. That has been what was the weather pattern, but that's in the process of changing. So that blocking is breaking down, and that's allowing the storm to escape out to sea. Now, the other side of that favorable pattern for a big East Coast storm is another teleconnection, we call it, which is the Pacific North American pattern, which when it's in its positive phase, like it's in right now, you tend to have a ridge over the western part of the country and an upper trough over the southeast. And that's one of the two pieces of the puzzle, the NAO being the other, that tends to be the favorable setup for an East Coast storm. Now, other situations can help too. Like, for example, if you have what's called the East Pacific Oscillation, which is the presence of a ridge over Alaska when it's in its negative phase, and that causes the upper level flow to go up over the polar region, and that will direct cold air to North America. That's how we get these extreme cold outbreaks when when you have that one and its sister, the West Pacific Oscillation, a little further west, forcing the jet stream way to the north and going over the pole and shoving cold air into eastern North America. Spend some time Googling those. It's a deep rabbit hole you can go into studying those teleconnections. But that's those are some of the things we watch out for. But right now, the weather pattern is only semi-favorable, and that's why one of the reasons why it's not, the storm's not going up the coast, which means it's not bombing out along the East Coast, because the NAO is just not in its favorable phase for that. It's going away from the favorable phase right now. And meanwhile, we do have the upper trough over the southeast, thanks to the PNA, but you tend to get these flat systems that just shoot across the southeast and out to sea when you just have the PNA favorable and the NAO not favorable as it's trending right now.
We'll take it. We will take it for sure, especially Rodanthe, Hatteras Island, Ocracoke. Any type of break they can get down.
Yeah, because those big nor'easters are no fun for you. It's like having a tropical storm or Cat 1 hurricane out there, with the way the wind blows out there, and you essentially get kind of a storm surge with the tides running high, and you get a lot of beach erosion, and then on top of that you can have snow and ice.
Yeah, exactly.
During the colder ones, so it's not fun to be at the Outer Banks during one of these nor'easters.
Unless you're like us and love weather, and then it's like, oh, here we go. Yeah.
Right. That is, it's all fun and games till the power goes out.
Exactly. Yep. Exactly.
Speaking of ice formation, our WeatherStem camera here in Pembroke, I think, has some icicles on it.
It sure does. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a little show and tell, if you will. We got a bunch of photos in from Carolina Weather groupies. I'm trying on that name for our fans. I think they're groupies, right? We got
sounds like a t-shirt.
It does sound like a t-shirt, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And I can tell you, it is the name we used for our new YouTube memberships. If anybody wants to check those out and become a supporting groupie, we would love to have you. So let's take a look at some of these pictures that you all sent in from across the Carolinas, and we'll make them a little bit smaller so we can see the names of folks. This is Steve Green in snow camp, close to 3 inches of snow he's estimating there. So a pretty snowy snow camp today. We have another video. This is from Edwin. Scotty, you got this one too. This is Catawba County. Were you hoping you were back home in the foothills after seeing some of this today?
No, not really. I had my fair share of snow a couple of weeks ago, so I think I'm ready for the 70s and 80s to return. But it's really nice.
Scotty's
to
like
see
me. He's okay with one good snowstorm each year,
yeah,
but nothing more after that. And 20 years in Pennsylvania cured me for the most part of my love of snow. So I guess Scotty's about where I am when it comes to snow.
Christian sent 2 inches here using the ruler, measuring it accurately in Graham, North Carolina. We've got Dan here. He says Sugar Creek and Graham Street area. I think that's in Charlotte, I think is what he's saying. And this is more or less what my experience was today. Just kind of like flurries and flakes falling from the sky.
Yeah, that's kind of what it looked like in most places in South Carolina where it snowed. It snowed, probably an inch worth of snow, maybe more fell from the sky. But you didn't get that much on the ground. You got pretty much none on the ground because it was the ground's warm and temperatures were above freezing, air temperatures. So it just didn't really stick.
Here is Fort Mill, South Carolina. Dan Crowley up in McDowell County. This was earlier this morning, so this was kind of the first licks of snow falling there. Chuck sent this one, good old Carolina Concrete in Winterville, North Carolina.
Oh, yeah.
But we were talking, right? We guys were talking about kind of the difference between where the ground might be a tad bit warmer versus a tad bit colder. And this is artificial ground, but you can really see how the patio fared versus the grass. Mm-hmm. 2 totally different outcomes.
Yeah. Speaking of these temperatures, something we have to watch in both North and South Carolina tonight, even in the areas that didn't really get much snow and ice, temperatures are dropping now. And for example, Rock Hill's 31. It's below freezing. Over toward Sharon, Bennettsville as well. It's right at freezing. Haven't really had time for the roads to dry off completely. So there's a potential there for some icy patches, especially on the elevated road surfaces. So if y'all are out tonight, you got to be careful, even in areas that didn't see any accumulating snow or sleet or any significant freezing rain. You're going to have to be careful because there can be some icy patches out there.
Yes, and I can tell you that's why some schools, I think, have already announced changes for tomorrow here in Charlotte. They're going with the 2-hour delay.
You guys are out today, right?
We were, well,
In
I guess it
Charlotte?
depends. It depends on your definition of out. We were virtual.
Okay, yeah, virtual. Well, I don't think. Well, maybe there is still legit snow days every once in a while, but I think the new virtual day replaces the snow day. But I
And
thought I heard that Charmec was out last night, and I was like, man, that's pretty impressive. They normally wait till the morning of.
well, maybe Sam heard this on yesterday's briefing with the governor. There was a question about how many virtual days you're allowed to have, and I think he said 5.
I'd have to go back and look at the transcript on it because I know that there was talk about the 15 days situation, with everything that's happened out in the West. You're going to have schools are going to be asking for waivers on instructional hours. They're going to have to be asking for waivers now. So let's see if I can pull that transcript. I'll jump back in with that. So.
All right, that would be interesting. Thank you. I was doing the same thing, but you might be able to get to it a little bit faster than me. Okay, so here was Chuck's photo, the last one we saw here. He did say 95% sleet and freezing rain on the onset, and that certainly was that inevitable mixing. Cabarrus County flurries here in Concord for a few hours. Roads are wet to Frank's Point. 0 snow on them, but any liquid will freeze tonight, and that will certainly be a threat. Let's look at this picture because this is Raleigh. Guys, I was loving the winter scene here from Raleigh, but check out this house. This is such an amazing house. And you can see we did reply back. So Emma tells us this is the historic Oakwood neighborhood there in Raleigh. Victorian postcard right now, a winter Victorian postcard right now.
I was going to say, there's a lot of the, if you go downtown Raleigh, there's quite a few of those houses that are actually state government offices. In fact, the lieutenant governor's office is one that looks very similar to that.
I was trying to place that, and I'm glad you recalled that because I think I did wander through this neighborhood at one time and recalled. I was like, "Is this a governor's office? Is this something?" This is just on a personal note. My Aunt Joan loves historic houses. She wrote a book on it, and I sent her this picture, Emma, because I was like, "Check out this house," and she immediately wrote back, "Second Empire, Italianate." Absolute beauty. The style far more popular in the north, but the back looks a little bit federal. And I was like, "Oh, thank you, Aunt Joan." I don't know what half those words mean, but I love it.
Hey, speaking of Raleigh, it's hard to believe Raleigh beat the snow drought before Charlotte did. I mean, Raleigh, normally it's a fight between Raleigh and Charlotte. Who's going to actually see some snowfall every year? Because it seems like both have that snow bubble on top of it.
One of many things Charlotte fights with Raleigh about, right, James?
That's right. There's a long, let me get my scroll. Hang on.
looks like Raleigh won this fight.
Well, and so did Greensboro, because Greensboro and Raleigh both got a couple days before Charlotte earlier in this winter, that first passing of snow, which whether or not you count it means we've had 3.5 different interactions with winter this year.
Speaking of
you know what? Oh, wait, hang on. And then, I'm sorry.
Picture?
The same system you're talking about did bring snow to Lake Norman and North Lake Mall. It just didn't snow at Charlotte Douglas, so it didn't count.
Right. It's because Interstate 85. That's the only
That's
reason.
right.
85 is like this. It's like this magnet or whatever. Yeah, magnetic force.
Yes,
field.
I'm sure the people who planned the route of I-85 thought, this is going to be a really awesome landmark for snowstorms.
Well, you guys know that we control the weather, and I just thought it would be fun to never bring any snow south of 85, so that's why.
That's it. That's it.
It was funny. I tell people at work, I was like, Mecklenburg County is one of those counties that you could get 6 inches of snow near Lake Norman, and where you are, James, you get absolutely nothing. You get sunshine and green grass. So,
well, and there have been times where we've had snow days. This was pre-pandemic when you had actual snow days, and I'd be living in Pineville at the time, and it was like raining. And I was like, this is a snow day. But it was exactly that. They'd have 6 inches of snow up near like Huntersville, and it's all the same
Yeah.
school district. It's so tall.
Yeah.
Yep.
But going back to what I want to make a point on, I feel like you guys may agree with me with this, but can we say this is the first legit winter we've had in quite a while for the Carolinas? I mean,
Sure.
it seems
Yeah.
like
Yep.
it's been a long time since we've had a legitimate winter time, and it seems like we've broke the streak this year.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it has been. Last year, no snow measurable anywhere in South Carolina. Year before last, no measurable snow anywhere in South Carolina. The year before that, we did have one minor snowstorm in
Yeah, we had
most of
those
South Carolina, another
back-to-back
little bit in the
Fridays, I
upstate.
think. Yeah.
Yeah. And the year before that, there was hardly any snow in South Carolina. So yeah, it's been a while since we've had a real winter.
And not only we're talking about winter precipitation, but actually even cold temperatures. I mean, it's not uncommon for a lot of the Carolinas in late January, December. I mean, February to jump into the upper 70s and 80s for a few days, and we've not had.
Well, we
that
did
this
that
year.
too.
Yeah.
We had record-breaking warmth.
That's true.
The 23-24 winter, there's hardly any cold in South Carolina. The 22-23 winter, except for the week around Christmas of 22, when it
Oh,
was
that was brutal.
extremely cold.
Yeah.
Got down to 12 here in Columbia, and everybody's pipes was busting, including one in the apartment I was living in at the time, which flooded.
You want to talk about
Christmas
power
morning.
problems?
Yeah, that too.
Well, what did Corey Davis at the climate office, Frank? What did he call this weather we've been experiencing? Weather whiplash?
Yes, that's right. He said weather whiplash.
Thought that was a good term. Yeah.
I would say 2020 for us out here would be the last time I think we had a legitimate winter where we had that was really the last significant snowfall we had out here was 2020. And we've had some
James-
dustings and things like that. So yeah.
James, remind me, when was it?
Mhm.
It was early December. Was it 2019 or 2018? We had the huge snowstorm for all of Western North Carolina, upstate South Carolina. And then since then, I think it snowed like between 8 to 12 inches.
Oh,
It was like a December 9th storm, I believe. And then since then,
I
it's
don't
just
know.
been dismal. I can't remember if it was 2018 or 2019, but it was one of those. I think maybe 2018. Now that I think of it, because it's been a while since we've had this much snow. So
snow lovers, I think, are rejoicing a bit. Yeah, certainly. And we've been living it up a little bit here. And you know what? Let's also mention, we haven't talked a lot about the mountains because they didn't get a ton of snow. I would say the mountains didn't get any more snow than the mountains normally get for snow. But how desperately, Scotty, do the mountains need this snow on their ski resorts to bring tourists back to Western Carolina after rain?
not only that, I mean, obviously tourism. We just finished President's Day weekend. The ski season, especially after Helene, very important, especially this year after all the damage and destruction. But also remember, still a lot of us is in those drought conditions, and this snow that we have is going to slowly seep into the ground, and that's kind of what you want. You don't want these hit or miss heavy rain showers where most of it just kind of runs off and it doesn't really do any good. So even here, we've had some freezing rain out there, but we just had a steady rain from lunchtime on today, and that's very beneficial because a lot of us are still in that level 2, level 3 drought. Frank, I know you have a better concept of the entire state, but I know here in my area, we're still in that level 2, level 3-ish kind of drought. So, it's just snowfall is needed just as much as rainfall in the wintertime, just to kind of soak the ground up, because you know how it is around here. We can go, as Frank said, what comes around goes around. We can go a month or two with having 10 inches of rain back-to-back months, and then go 3 or 4 months with nothing. So it's good to have that snow and just kind of like slowly melt into the ground and keep those drought conditions away.
Yep. James, there goes the drought monitor for South Carolina, which shows much of South Carolina in the D1 moderate drought. And yes, an all-day rain, light to moderate rain, some of it snow. That's just what the doctor ordered when you're in a drought. This will be quite beneficial. The drought conditions extend up in the upstate too. That area, however, has had better rains over the last couple of weeks, and I suspect we'll see the drought conditions get trimmed back some on the next update.
Tomorrow.
There goes North Carolina, and
Mhm.
yeah, the drought is even worse in eastern North Carolina, but you're getting snow and ice, and then again, that's exactly what the doctor ordered because
But you won't
And
see
it's
that on
food
tomorrow's
into the
report.
soil.
It'll be the next week's report.
Right, yeah.
Like they sent it, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
and last week was the first time we saw improvement here in the Northeast, especially in that, the what they'll call the Pamlico, the Albemarle Pamlico Peninsula, the Dare, Hyde, Terrell County went from D2 to D1. That was the first time we'd seen a decrease since early December, and that was a benefit of basically a week of rain, the 2 weeks ago snow. We got a very good, and that area is where we have our wildfire issues out in the Alligator River National Wildlife Refuge, the Pocosin Lakes. It's all that that Pocosin. My brain just shut down. The stuff that burns, peat. It's basically peat. It's the ground will burn out in those areas when it gets drought conditions. We've seen that many times, but we've also seen where we've gotten either a hurricane to help, but in the case of what we're getting this winter, like we had in 2018 when we had our back-to-back situations, this winter is going to help us get out of that drought condition, at the same time keep our groundwater levels, the soil levels down in those areas where we have those wildfire threats. So yeah, this has been great for the drought situation that we've been in.
The wildfires in
And we've seen-
particular.
Yeah, I was gonna say we've seen the wildfires. Again, it's been so busy. My weeks run together. So maybe James, you can help me on this. But was it 2-ish weeks ago in McDowell County when we had
Yep.
2 or 3 wildfires going on?
Yeah.
3 weeks ago,
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
a lot of the timber and stuff are still down from Hurricane Helene, and then you get dry conditions. And as we get into spring, we know the wind starts to blow, and
Yeah.
it's like just ready to explode whenever it gets that spark. So this rain is much helpful for a lot of folks.
Yeah, it was the night of the DC plane crash because we had started off
Yeah,
our
that's
program
right.
at 9 o'clock
Mhm.
talking about the wildfires. Got about 20 minutes in and pivoted to that tragedy there in DC. So that was all kind of the same night. And what a busy year it has been, and it's only February. A few minutes ago, we were discussing whether or not there's a quota on the number of remote or school days that can be had. And I went back to yesterday's news conference to find the moment where the governor answers this question from a reporter at WXII in Winston-Salem, Greensboro area. And I don't know if we're going to get an answer or not, but here it is.
Systems in Western North Carolina and in my area, Winston-Salem, Greensboro, and High Point, have already missed a considerable number of days because of previous winter weather. And remote learning days have been a challenge as well with the 5-day limit. So I was curious, since now there's been a state of emergency declared, would these days that are probably going to be missed this week count against schools? Would they be forced to make these days up, or are you going to waive them?
We will look into that question. One element in the budget request that I have made of the General Assembly that they have not indicated a willingness to fund at this point is paying for summer instructional time. There are school systems out west that have missed more than 15 school days already. It's imperative that students not miss out on the opportunity to learn. So we want to have instructional time this summer. That obviously costs money to operate. And so that is one of the budget items that remain in discussion with the General Assembly. I want to make sure that all young people in North Carolina have every opportunity to learn so that they can build whatever life they want for themselves.
Okay, I don't think that really answered the question because he said he'd look into it and then started talking about sending kids to school over the summer. So that sounds like a whole another dilemma.
Oh yeah, get the General Assembly into that. It is a 5-day limit because it was curious to me how we did not have out here when we had our last snow event where we were like, we're totally no school, nothing. Today and tomorrow, all of our school systems are in virtual, but there is a limit on the number that they're allowed to do. It is 5 days. then they have to start asking for waivers. What the governor got into was the potential for either extending the school year, not so much extending the school year, but adding these summer learning opportunities. That would take some extra funding that those school systems would need from the state to make that happen. So be interested to see if that can get worked into one of the disaster bills that's being worked through right now. Of course, the legislature shut down for the rest of the week. They were supposed to have some pretty significant votes yesterday, and they said, forget it, we can get a committee. And North Carolina General Assembly said, no, we're done. We're not coming back to Raleigh.
They
until
said,
Monday.
forget it. We might get a flake of snow. We can't be here. Okay, Raleigh, you got snow. I'll give it to you. Here it is. There it is.
They got snow. Did y'all see that Carolina and State tonight basketball? They threw the doors open.
I did see
said
that.
everybody come in that can walk. Yeah. Now it filled the lower bowl, and maybe they got into the upper deck, so it was probably only about 12,000 maybe were there, which is pretty good. The funniest part of that whole thing is before we went on the air, I was watching the game. Between one of the timeouts, the chancellor comes down, gets some booze. He announces no class tomorrow, and the place explodes. So,
we'll break it.
On top of Carolina exploding on State.
A little breaking news for you guys. I have a winter weather advisory extended from the foothills down into the Charlotte metro area for tomorrow's snow ban, up to 1 inch of snow expected. So that winter weather advisory goes until noon tomorrow for a dusting to around 1 inch of snow for portions of the foothills and Piedmont of western North Carolina. So I would venture to say maybe getting some school decisions late tonight with that.
I think there's a non-zero chance that places who have announced closures tomorrow morning go JK, or I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. Places who have announced delays go JK, we're closed now. Because here's that Futurecast one more time to show. So there's the storm system that we currently had today, moving on out, and then here comes what Scotty was just referring to, more snow.
And I have got breaking news from out here. Now, granted, it is just across the border, but we're in that Virginia, North Carolina weather forecast office situation. Our first 10-inch report has come in from Hampton Roads at Little Creek, which is out by the airport. It's not the official airport station, but it's just to the north of it, Little Creek Amphibious Base. 10.25 inches was just reported at 9:55.
That's why they sent Cantori. Somehow Cantori knows where all these big numbers are going to be.
He knows. Yeah, I saw him earlier jumping into a snowdrift out at the Cavalier, which is a resort there in Virginia Beach. So, we got it has verified. It has verified that Southeast Virginia, Northeast North Carolina, we won tonight.
You certainly did.
With Cantori, he's been on a great winning streak for a long time now. But you remember there was a time 15 or 20 years ago when everybody hated seeing Cantori because he was on a losing streak for a while. Every time he showed up, the storm would sidestep that area. So good for him that he's on a winning streak now. But he had a rough go for a while back around 2010, I think.
Yeah. Oh, the Chesapeake Expressway, nice and socked in right now.
Yeah, Sam, can you talk to the Virginia DOT? This camera looks like it's from 1985.
That's City of Chesapeake. But yeah, it does. Those cameras are not the best.
It's the font at the bottom that really does.
I know. Yeah. Never go cheap on your security cameras, folks. That's why they all look so bad. We could get so much better images on TV if you just put a little more money into your security camera purchase.
At least Virginia streams their cameras.
That is true. Yeah, I've had that conversation. I had that conversation about out here. We'd love to get those streams, but nope, they won't do it. And they won't get anybody to host
it. Too. It's just that it's not a good quality stream.
Right.
Of a guy who works at a TV station straddling 2 states, I will take an SCDOT camera any day. Hey guys, look, a live plow.
Oh, where is
Mr. Plow? This is a City of Virginia Beach.
Okay. Live plow. You don't have a tag on what camera that is, do you?
I probably could if I take it out of full screen. General Booth Boulevard.
General Booth General Booth runs right out by Oceana. It's just Oceana Naval Air Station, and is just south of the Virginia Beach oceanfront.
There's actually
So-
2 plows out there.
I think they're tag teaming. I bet you it's
They
going to be
are.
like a left lane, right lane situation after they
Actually,
make
if
this
that
turn.
is, if that's Dam Neck, that's where the Navy SEALs train is. Dam Neck would be to the where they're getting ready to turn heads towards, is out to Dam Neck.
And there they
Uh,
go.
Yep. Dun, 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 dun. Mr. Plow, Mr.
I
Plow.
know. I thought they were going to turn. I guess not.
No, I guess not. No.
That one had
Alright.
salt in it.
Looks like they don't even have the blade down.
I don't think
Well,
they
maybe
do.
they do. Maybe they do. But
Those might be private contractors, actually, now that I look at that.
They did get a little closer. You're right. It looked a
Yeah.
little smaller than I was anticipating.
Okay.
Meaning, it might, like you said, might be.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good night not to be on the roads.
Yeah, there's General Booth and Dam Neck. There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
So yeah, that's where if you ever talk about SEAL Team 6, they come right out of that street, in and out to work every day. They're in Virginia Beach, just south of the ocean front.
They have it.
Okay, before we end this, we haven't addressed the elephant in the room.
Uh-oh.
Anybody taking odds on this asteroid expected to hit
Oh,
Earth in,
yeah.
I was like, which
2032?
elephant? That one or that one?
I just saw a latest tweet. It's up to 3.1% chance now. So your betting odds are getting a little bit higher.
and that's in what, 2032?
Not soon enough,
Yes.
Frank.
Is that on DraftKings?
Well, if it's coming in 2032, maybe we will prefer the meteor to the election of 2032.
How many is that away? 1, 2, that's 2 away, yeah.
Well, Frank mentioned elections, so I guess I have to roll the credits now.
Oh, yeah.
That was meant to be a totally nonpartisan comment.
I know.
Everybody will be so disgusted with the choices that I'll just take the meteor.
I don't know what I got going on here. I know we're supposed to wrap, but I'm suddenly playing with Virginia's cameras. Okay, take that in. I'll click back out of it to figure out where we are because it's not labeled.
That.
Looks like we have an
Oh,
accident
that's
here.
yeah, that's an
I-64.
accident.
Yeah, it looks like something's burning in the middle of a snow-covered road.
I don't think it's burning. I think it's flashing lights.
Was that
Probably
I-64?
so.
Yeah, it's I-64.
Night vision cameras
Mile marker
tend to do that
292.
kind of thing.
Okay, that would be and the roads you've shown earlier when you showed the Chesapeake Expressway 292. This is how everybody gets to the Outer Banks. 85% of our visitors all come through here because
Not
they're all
tonight.
coming from the north. Not tonight. I will share that the last time we got snow like this, which was 3 weeks ago, I had to drive and pick my wife up from the airport in the Newport News and drove through all that on these interstates. And it was, as you can see, just about the same conditions. Not a fun night, but yeah, that's probably a crash that's being responded to there on Interstate 64.
I was gonna say,
makes
is
sense.
it a
Chesapeake.
crash or is that a bridge? Maybe they were shutting the bridge down.
Well, 292. So 290 is 290. Yeah, that could. No, because that's the different lanes here. I don't believe so.
I'll read the overhead signs.
I was about to say VDOT does put up their overhead signs. So, and that's
There's a
the
lot of
high.
them.
Yeah, that is the high rise bridge. Oh, yeah, because they have express lanes there now. So, yeah.
It
Yeah,
could
that
be,
is-
I don't know.
That's the high rise bridge, which actually crosses over the Intracoastal Waterway in Chesapeake. And to the south, to the left, is the Dismal Swamp Canal start, which was surveyed by George Washington. Yeah, there you go. That's how you get down to the Dismal Swamp Canal, which runs down to Elizabeth City. The other way comes, I can look out the window and hear the boats going down the tugboat. So
Look at this. We talked about the winds earlier. Look at the snow blowing in. That's white.
yeah,
It's windy there.
yeah, we do.
Stormy the
Yeah.
Weather Cat says hello.
Hey,
Hello.
Stormy.
I'm at right now. I've got north at 15 gusts to 18, and that is on my on my Tempest, right out on the edge of the Sound. It's about 20 feet back from my bulkhead. So the north, it doesn't quite. It gets the north because the north wind comes right down the Sound. So that's probably blowing anywhere from 15 to 20. They were talking about 25 to 30 for us up that way.
Yeah.
Let's see. Currently in Norfolk, wind northeast at 12 miles an hour. No gusts indicated. Half-mile
Okay.
visibility and snow.
Okay.
That's Norfolk International Airport.
Right. Yep. My wife got one of the last flights out of there today, by the way. So
That guy's got the plow down.
yeah, that's a VDOT.
Yep.
Well, it's a
Yeah.
contractor. VDOT contracts. They do most of their plow work is done by contractors up there.
Interesting. I feel like I learned so much on today's show. I think we'll end on this camera.
There you go.
There you go.
Yeah, those express lane poles, they're getting demolished by those
Keep
plows.
saying snow plows.
Yeah.
That's the same snowplow we just saw. I'm stalking him.
Okay.
Yeah, you see those little white dots in the middle of the lanes there to the left? Those are those little plastic bollards. They have been they're just strode all over that stretch of interstate now because of these back-to-back snow events.
That'll do it.
Yep.
So if you're watching Carolina Weather Group tonight on YouTube, as soon as this stream ends, it's going to take you over to our Carolina Weather Net. This is our nonstop service with radar, sky cameras, and real-time alerts. It's been keeping many of you informed about the conditions throughout today. It's going to run all through the overnight and through tomorrow because, as Scotty mentioned a few moments ago, we're going to be watching for some more winter weather in some parts of the Carolina tomorrow morning. So I hope you will check that out, and you can watch it any place you watch YouTube, from your smartphone to your smart TV. Until then, I hope you're inside, staying warm. Congratulations to Southeastern Virginia and Northeastern North Carolina for winning this snow event.
Yeah.
And maybe you'll share some with the rest of us next time, Sam.
We'll try. We'll do that. We will share. We'll be glad to share that. We just won't share any hurricane stuff. How about that?
Anybody going out?
Winter's not over.
is
I
this
think the weather pattern gives us
I
a
know.
shot at more winter storms, at least in North Carolina, going into early March. So
I was getting ready to ask that. I was like, who's going to put places on? This is the winter's last hurrah. Or we still have a few more opportunities.
Hey, look,
Yeah,
March
well-
1st, 1980 was the record out here, 20 inches in Elizabeth City.
oh, do I have stories to tell about the early March 1980 snowstorm?
I'm sure.
My
The
parents and I was 8 years old. My
Uh-huh.
parents and I were visiting Charleston for the weekend. And we took a 3-day weekend down there, and it was icy the second day. And then it was nasty the third day, which was March 2nd, which that morning, I think it was a Sunday, we were leaving to go back to Rock Hill. It was snowing in Charleston. 26 existed then. We were on the way, got as far as Columbia, but 77 was not finished then. They had started on it, but hadn't finished it in South Carolina then. So we were in Columbia. There was 4 or 5 inches of snow on the ground and the roads. Back then, there really weren't any snow plows in South Carolina. So we were trying in a 1978 Toyota Corolla, which was rear-wheel drive, trying to get up even a medium-sized hill just north of Columbia with 6 inches of snow on the ground. Didn't work. We did not get home. We had to give up because it was getting dark, and we spent the night in what's called the Wilson Motel, which doesn't exist anymore, but it was on 21 somewhere between Columbia and Blythewood. That's where we spent the night, and then the next morning finished the drive home to Rock Hill after the snow had quit, and a couple of snow plows had been on 21.
I was afraid you were going to say in the car.
No, we didn't spend the night in the car, thankfully. We almost had to, because we got some of the last rooms at that little motel. But
Well, let me share the story of the reason it's called the Circus Storm out here is because Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Circus was on its in its stay at the Norfolk Scope in downtown Norfolk, about a 9,000 seat arena, and that snowstorm started around 4 o'clock. And by the time that the late show was the evening show was to let out, they didn't let them out. Folks ended up staying the night in the Norfolk Scope because 20 inches of snow.
That'll do it.
yeah,
So
that's right.
yeah.
It was a big storm in South Carolina.
Yeah.
It was 10 inches at home at my parents' place, but y'all had even more out there. And
Right.
like I said, it was 20 inches in a few spots out there in Carteret County and Craven County, I think.
Exactly. Yeah. All the way up into southeastern Virginia was 20 plus inches.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I found the little map from the Morehead City office there that kind of blurry, but maybe making it bigger will help. You can see the snowfall totals.
This is what year again?
Storm.
No, 1980.
Early March 1980.
March 1,
Okay.
1980. March 1.
Just so no
actually,
one
that-
gets confused with what's currently
Yeah,
happening.
that's generally 15 to 25 inches out there, and a couple spots, I guess, had 30 there in Carteret County.
Mhm.
Wow.
No, that was.
I was just going to point out the college kids have taken to the quad here in Raleigh.
Oh, yeah.
Snowball fight.
Fire Kevin Keats. Is that why they're out there? Oh, I'm sorry. After their performance this evening at Chapel Hill.
You go to my X page, there's more fun sledding videos of NC State students.
Okay. Is that what I'm ending on? Should we end on that?
Sure. I think that's
why
a good
not?
way.
Okay. Oh, you know what? Jack Kendrick's video popped up too. So is that the same one?
That's
the same
that's
one?
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Same one.
All right, Jack. There it is. I think the computer's also tired because that did not come up when I clicked on it. Here it is.
There
Boom.
we go. Good old fashioned college fun.
Oh, there we go. Yes.
I remember one time it snowed. It's people throwing things. That's not a good idea. Are they using chairs?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cards.
Nice.
I
That would be me, the guy that wiped out when he hit the curb. That would be me.
Jeez. Oh man. Okay.
Wow.
They're young. They'll bruise up.
They'll bounce right back. No problem.
Bounce right back.
Yeah, college kids, they bounce back from everything because they're still in their 20s.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Leave.
Again, if I were that guy who hit the curb and wiped out, I would be stuck in bed for 2 or 3 days.
He's gonna be wondering why his butt hurts tomorrow.
That's right.
Leave extra time tomorrow if you're going to try to hit the roads. If you can avoid, and just stay home. Sounds wonderful too. Until then, thanks for joining us for this edition of the Carolina Weather Group. And I suppose we'll see you back here next week to see what the weather's going to throw us, because it feels like it's been keeping us on our toes.
This is the winter that never ends. Just goes on.
Oh, God.
My friends.
I'm rolling the credits. Get me out of here.
Bye, y'all.
See y'all later.